and welcome to another episode of Social PR Secrets. My name is Lisa Beyer, and I will be your host. Today's guest is Navah Hopkins. Navah is the Director of Paid Media at Hennessey Digital, and she is also an international speaker. We originally met about 7 years ago at PubCon, and at that time, Navah was working for a company called WordStream, and she specialized in SEO. Fast forward to today, Navah is now specializing in PPC, and we talk about the connection and the differences between the strategies when it comes to SEO and when it comes to PPC. And of course, we tie in the power of public relations. Navah also shares with us some productivity tips and some tips of her own and social PR secrets that I can't wait for you to hear. And we've dedicated the month of December to interviewing only females because the future is female. Welcome, Navah. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Social PR Secrets. And I have Navah Hopkins here with me today. Hey, Navah, how are you?
I am so well, and it is such a pleasure to be here with you. It has been, as we were just discussing, an age, and can't wait to chat about PPC and PR and all the things in between.
I'm trying to remember when we first met. I think it was at a PubCon. It was maybe your first PubCon, right?
Yeah, I think so. The PubCon Vegas 2016, I believe.
Yeah. And you've come a long way since then. You're now speaking at PubCon and very involved. And what I'm most excited about having you on to be the guest is also just the fact that you started in SEO and then you transitioned to PPC. When I met you, you were with WordStream, and I'll let you kind of give like your background journey of where we are today. But I just love the fact that we're talking about, from the same person, SEO, PPC, and I can chime in on how that ties into public relations.
For sure. So that is correct. When you met me, I was at WordStream, January of 2020, at the beginning of this year. Jason Hennessey, whom I met through other industry events, approached me about, hey, do you want to lead up the paid media division for my SEO company, or Hennessey Digital? And what's been really fascinating is that I got into SEO right out of school, but I also did my certifications for Google Ads while in school. And so my very first job out of school was working for a directory SEO company. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you, directory SEO in those early days was terrible. And I had kind of ethical questions about, what am I doing? This is not great. And so I ended up transitioning. I took actually the money that I earned from that job, started a nonprofit that didn't succeed, unfortunately. It was Angel Ed. The goal was to connect students with mentors and scholarships so that education would be as debt-free and employable as possible. But what was really interesting about that is that in creating that nonprofit, I was able to create relationships in the educational space, in the ed tech space. And so as I would kind of grow in my career in marketing, I would be able to parlay those relationships to help educate the next generation of PPC practitioners, but then also develop some really useful relationships with college professors to kind of get a sense of what are people being taught, and what are the skills that we kind of need to push out there more versus what's on the market already. So after Angel Ed, went to work for WordStream, was there for about 5 years, was able to get kind of this plethora of data. And now at Hennessey Digital, I'm able to lead a team working on PPC, working on paid social, but we also collaborate quite heavily on the SEO side. We'll use paid campaigns to kind of teach what content might make sense to go after. And on the content side, if we see that certain content ideas are really converting, we'll definitely explore those on the paid side. So it's a really nice harmony. And so I'm very excited for kind of the next set of adventures, but that's kind of my trajectory, is going from I don't know what I want to I still don't know what I want, but I'm at least paid. Paid is my main. SEO is my empathy.
Yes, and we were talking right before we started recording when we were chatting just about how when you attend a conference like PubCon or any type of marketing conference or really any conference in general where there's multiple tracks and topics, how how the best thing to do is to go off your grid, go out of your comfort zone and go to sessions that will complement what you already are possibly an expert in, so you can learn how to integrate other strategies into what you're already doing.
Yes. So people might think that I'm doing this just because, oh, you want to go support your friends. And to be fair, there are many, many speakers that are part of the circuit that are fantastic people, and I love them to pieces. But the truth is, I actually love going to sessions where I'm uncomfortable, where I know I don't know the thing already. And to be frank, it is very rare when you are in a discipline that you will learn something truly new from the session that is being given. True, that there are times where you'll get a great session and it's super actionable and wonderful, and it's a totally new way of thinking. We all strive to create content like that, but you usually will get the most value out of a conference, especially if you're investing 500, 600, 1,000 plus per ticket, if you get at least one session that's not in your discipline, so you can communicate with your colleagues in a better way. You can expand your agency offering. You can serve your brand in a better way. A really good example of this is actually, I will make a point to go to Aleda's sessions and Shelly's sessions, Shelly Fegan and Aleda Solis, on tech SEO, because to be fair, I now work at a tech SEO company. I am not a technical SEO at all. It's not what I do. But I need to be able to interface with my colleagues and put forward strategies that are not going to hurt their efforts. And I need to know what they're thinking and why they think the way that they think, so that I can advocate for what I need to do on the paid side. So by going to sessions like that, where even though it's not my responsibility, I'm able to have that empathy because I have at least a conversational understanding, not a fluent understanding. I'm not the one doing the work, but I can at least speak and think intelligently about it.
Yeah, and actually, that's exactly when I went to my first search engine strategies conference, which was probably in 2007. I had a PR agency that was digital PR, but things were just starting to kind of take off with PPC, and my clients were asking me, questions about starting a PPC campaign, and it was, still like the very wild, wild west, and nobody was really an expert. People were saying they were an expert. Everything was so new. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to search engine strategies, and I'm just going to do exactly what you just said. I'm going to learn the terminology. I'm going to learn what everything means so that I can help my clients interpret when other
These
consultants or other
offerings,
agencies,
yep.
yes, and say, okay, this makes sense, and ask the right questions. And one thing led to another, and I ended up loving it. And I after my first conference, I was like, wow, I feel like I just got my MBA, in this whole new world that I can apply to public relations. And kind of from there, I just started going to becoming the internet marketing junkie, conference goer, and then speaker. But it's so important, and I feel like we've been saying this for 10 years, that how it's so important to not work in silos and to like cross into each other's paths, and have team meetings crossing over paid and SEO. Can you give some examples? If you're a brand, like, how do you know if you're not really paying attention to SEO, but you should, or if you're really just starting out and not sure about paid, like, how do you know where to start? Do you start with SEO, or do you start with paid? Do you start with both? What do you recommend?
So a really, and that's a fantastic question. A really important way to think about this is actually not on what discipline, but thinking, what kind of budget do I realistically have, and how much time do I realistically have for something to work? If you are testing SEO and you don't have 6 months, 9 months to really get that impact, no matter how good the endeavor is, no matter how qualified the vendor is, you likely are going to be disappointed because you're not giving yourself the time to rank. You're not giving yourself the time for those links to really establish themselves, the content to really ingratiate itself, any fixes on crawl budget and the crawlability to really work. So you want to make sure that you've given yourself enough time. Conversely, on the paid side, if you are expecting, I turn it on and it's instantly great, you're going to be disappointed as well, because there's actually a built-in 5-day learning period, no matter what you're doing on the Google ad side. On the Facebook ad side, it's actually a little bit different. On the Facebook side, it's pretty rapid. So if you need super, super, super fast results, regardless of quality, Facebook can be great. The reason I say regardless of quality, on the e-commerce side, I love Facebook. in Instagram, like amazing, 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 amazing. There is so much power in impulse buying. On the lead gen side, it's a really interesting phenomenon. People forget that they gave their contact information on Facebook. They just
Yes, I've
completely
seen that.
forget. They completely space on it. And so you'll have paid for this lead, but they don't remember, and then it can be a bit of a weird quality, but on ramp up time, super fast. So time is a factor. If you have a $1,000 per month budget versus a $10,000 per month budget versus a $100,000 per month budget, that's going to also influence where you start. Typically, with paid, you want to actually invest more aggressively than you intend to in the first 30 to 60 days so that you can build the data to help the algorithms understand that you're A, quality, and B, you can build those conversion events so that it knows how to direct your traffic. If you're not in a position to do that, then odds are you probably actually want to start making sure that your site is set correctly. And if you can't afford to really invest in that site, use the free tools like the Google My Business website, use the free tools, Facebook page profiles, and it like there are free things out there if you truly are budget strapped. But for everyone that's outside of that realm, I would actually advocate starting with the site and making sure that your site is really sound, that the conversion experiences are super easy. And then from there, you can do maybe a branded campaign plus a little bit of SEO. Or you could do what's called a dynamic search ad campaign that builds off of the SEO of your site and will actually give you that keyword research by crawling your pages and generating kind of half of the ad for you. I realize that that's an it depends answer. That's our industry, is it depends. But that's definitely a good way to think about how to start.
Yeah, I really like that. That's very helpful. It reminded me of an article, a recent article that Greg Jarbo just wrote on. It was about how there's not that many VP of SEOs, but there are VP of PPC or VP of digital marketing. But the VP of SEO title, it's while brands will say in a survey, oh yes, SEO is very important. Really, when you look at CMOs and you look at their qualifications, many of them don't have the SEO experience
Empathy.
to direct it. And so, and it's very frustrating for me to see this because I'm kind of like more under the umbrella of SEO and organic. And yeah, I'm watching these brands that have 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 a month budgets for paid, but they don't have a budget for, let's just say organic or
I'll tell
or
you why.
PR.
PPC is super easy to tell when we're, to be frank, screwing up.
Hmm.
There's data to say, oh, the ROI on this was good, the ROI on this is bad. And most people don't want to do the work of attribution and building those models out. They don't want to necessarily invest in extra call tracking. They don't want to do that work. When you actually invest in a meaningful conversion tracking, follow the user through the funnel process, it's absolutely possible to put an ROI to SEO. And if you think about SEO from an ROI standpoint and you think about your content from having very certain deliverables that it needs to meet, it, it's absolutely a no-brainer to invest in SEO. And what's really interesting is that yes, SEO tends to be kind of you either believe in it or you don't. Um, but I actually would equate SEO to, and this might be controversial, but to like climate change. Like it's silly that people don't believe in climate change. It's silly that people don't believe that SEO works. And this is me coming from the PPC in the room.
Yeah.
Um, but part of the reason for that is because if you don't have a site that ranks well, guess what one of the factors for quality score is landing page experience. And if that site is full of malware, if that site is just terrible in terms of the layout and the user doesn't know how to get anywhere, if that site doesn't give any clues as to what it's about, you're going to get dinged and you're going to pay premiums for your clicks and you're going to have a lot of people going to the site that don't turn into customers. So you don't want to completely handicap your SEO budget. You want to set it up to succeed. And if it doesn't succeed, you want to understand why it's not succeeding, as opposed to saying it's not useful at all.
Maybe you can walk us through just some points to look at in Google Analytics to show SEO success or and PPC success. So, I mean, we work with some clients and we have access to all of their Google Analytics, and some of them have the Google Analytics set up very well, and some of them not very well. So they're not really able to track like the success of SEO. So they're not really able to look at transactions or revenue from SEO, but they're able to see it through, other platforms on the PPC side. So what are some tips you can give so that somebody can really make a fair judgment on the quality of traffic that's coming as a result of search versus PPC?
For sure. So one of the best ways is actually to look at the customer journey and the conversion paths. So you can actually see, okay, this person came from organic, this person came from direct, this person came from referral, this person came from PPC, this person came from email, and what steps in the journey there needs to be in order to get most of your conversions. What are the most common conversion paths? The other thing that's really important to know, and this is actually one of the points I'm making. I hope I can promote eSummit for
Yeah.
SEJ. It's kind of one of the spoiler alert for my session. Attribution and last click attribution is probably one of the most common reasons that SEO gets the short end of the stick, because analytics default is last click attribution, Google Ads default is last click attribution, and if the only thing getting credit is the very last thing before the click, well, you're out of luck. And the other piece to this is just because something wasn't the very first thing that introduced the user into the funnel doesn't mean that it's not useful. So a lot of people get hung up on first click and last click. One of the most valuable things to do is to actually show clients the models for revenue based on the different attribution models. When you do that, you're able to see, hey, organic might have actually been a winner. Or you might see, hey, you know what, PPC did great overall, but you know what, I probably actually needed a little bit more on the organic side to help with that content piece. So yeah, it's definitely attribution models is incredibly important. The other thing I would strongly recommend looking at is the bounce rate for all of your different channels, and helping clients understand that a high bounce rate isn't always necessarily bad depending on where they go. Particularly on the content side, if you're driving someone to a blog, it's going to have a high bounce rate because like what are they going to do other than read it and then leave, unless the page is configured for high CRO or conversion rate optimization. So that's definitely a big factor.
Okay, that's awesome. So just to switch gears, one of the things I also wanted to talk to you about was message mapping. And what does that mean? And can you kind of walk us through some of the steps to achieve that?
Sure. So message mapping. Sorry, you can hear my husband and his brother just walked in. So message mapping is thinking about who your personas are and making sure that you're not just putting the same ad or the same bit of content to everybody. You're really thinking about, okay, if this person well, actually, I'll use myself. I am an avid gamer. I am a pet mom. You serve me something talking about cuddling up with a dog, playing video games, because you're targeting me for like some blanket or some gaming system or some pet food or whatever, and you combine those ideas, that's perfect for me, as opposed to just saying, here's dog food or here's a
Mhm.
blanket. Now, in terms of creating those audiences, analytics is incredibly important. I love using analytics audience segments because I'm able to then take Facebook, LinkedIn, email, organic, and actually build audiences based off of those very specific behaviors, port them over into Google Ads, and then target ads with video, target ads with text, so on and so forth. What also is incredibly useful is thinking about in Facebook ads. Um, Now that there's kind of budget optimizer verdicts out on whether we like it or we don't, you can have an ad set per persona as opposed to trying to force all of your different tests into a single ad set. There's nothing more frustrating than that, because you're basically sharing your budget, whereas with the ad sets not having to have their own unique budgets, you really can have those meaningful tests. But yeah, it really does come down to just thinking about who is my customer, what motivates them, and honoring the fact that not all of your customers are going to have the same buying motivations.
One of I interviewed a while back, Kurt Malley. So he specializes in Facebook advertising, and he's a Facebook partner. His agency is, and he was talking about how Facebook's algorithm is becoming so smart that you could just literally launch an ad without any targeting, and Facebook will figure out the targeting for you through, their AI. So talk, where are we
So
with the
I
algorithms?
would not give Facebook full reign. It's
Well,
you
he
just
wasn't saying to do that. He was just saying that the algorithm is becoming smarter. Like, I guess he did like an A/B test where no targeting versus targeting, and like kind of use that as an example of like how smart Facebook is getting.
so Facebook has definitely gotten smarter in that it no longer needs 50 conversions or conversion actions in a 7-day period in order to function. I 100% agree with that. But the fact remains, Facebook, if it doesn't get enough conversion actions or results in, say, a 2 to 3 day period, it actually will start to stunt itself. So while it is very good at, if you are in a high volume industry, it has definitely gotten better. I would exercise caution, fully trusting the Facebook's expansion audiences, uh, unless you're very okay with your lead quality being a grab bag. You're going to have some value in there, but it can be questionable. Um, and I say this coming more from a lead gen standpoint. Again, on the e-commerce side, 100%, it's definitely gotten much better.
Cool. Talk to us about workflow and working remote. You, I think, have some insights and tips on that.
Yes. So Hennessey Digital, we are fully remote. So when COVID hit and everyone had to figure out remote, we were already in our remote world. And one thing that's actually been really important. So we have we finally just went to Slack. We were on Skype, but we each major group within the agency have our threads and our huddles, and we communicate with each other every day on those threads. In addition, we'll have huddles, 30-minute huddles, maybe once a week, where we get FaceTime with each other. And the reason why that's so critical is that the relationships that you build with your work family, and they truly do become your work family, they're built on FaceTime. You can't really necessarily build a relationship with someone if you don't get to see them. You don't get to talk to them regularly. So having that regular check-in once a week with your teammates, but then also cross-department collaboration time. We have a rule on my team: 10% of your time needs to go to wild and crazy ideas. Come up with some fun things for clients. Come up with some fun things for yourself. It's kind of that 10% wild and crazy time. The other thing that's been actually really interesting, we use something called T-sheets. So for clocking in and kind of seeing where time is going. Part of the value of that is actually, we're not micromanaging people. We're not controlling what they're doing with their computer. We're not docking them for hours, but we're able to see at a high level, how is time being allocated and how much of our time are clients getting? Are we underservicing them? Are we overservicing them? And we can think about pricing. The final thing I'll give a shout out to, even though it's hit or miss depending on who you ask, is Commit 3. This is actually a really cool free tool where you commit to 3 things, and everyone on your squad can see what are the 3 things you've committed to and whether you've completed them. So it's a really powerful way to kind of have that, not just transparency and accountability, but also, cool, we all did our commits, or man, today was tough, none of us got to our commits. So
I love that.
it's a nice camaraderie piece.
Yes, yes. Just curious, I like to ask this question, especially for agencies and just in-house marketing departments. So we use Asana. Do you use any certain
We use
what?
Asana. And what's cool about Asana, we have our Asana templates, which is great for just kind of standardization. But we also will use Asana even for PTO. We'll use Asana for just general project workflows. I will say adoption of Asana is department dependent. So certain departments fully bought in, they live and breathe by Asana, or they live and die by Asana. My department, we use it. We probably could use it more.
Yeah, we've been using Asana probably, oh my God, maybe 6 or 7 years, and it kind of goes in like ebbs and flows. But we've also had to use other project management platforms with working with clients and, go on their platforms. So we use Monday.com with one client, and we've used Trello, and trying to think what the other one was. Another one that was similar to Asana, and I think I like Asana the best. Yeah, and I love how Asana integrates with Slack too.
That's definitely a big value add. We I think if we were ever to abandon Asana, it would be for a tool that we would make ourselves. Like that's
Yeah.
it's that ingrained into our workflow.
Any other productivity tips you can share with us, especially since we're just basically living in like the most digitally connected world that we've been in ever?
I would actually schedule blocks on your calendar for the different tasks that you're going to do. So I used to give this advice all the time, just in general, of have 15 or even 5 unmovable minutes that's dedicated to PPC auditing tasks. But I've actually found that now that we're in COVID and we're all remote and that's all that it is, I find I'm more productive if I block out the approximate times I think I'm going to spend on XYZ tasks. And so people know, okay, if this is this type of task, I can book over it for a client meeting if I really need to. And then I'll have actually open times that are dedicated for client meetings. I have my times that are, nope, you don't touch it. That's my grunt work time. I'm not available for calls. The other thing that I find incredibly useful, and this is just kind of more of a wellness thing than necessarily a remote working thing, I begin every day with 1 to 2 power songs, just to kind of invigorate the spirit.
I love
And I
that.
find that if I don't start my day with the power song, I'm in a terrible mood. I'm the worst. Like everything is wrong. But
What's
then
your
I
favorite
listen
power song?
Beyond Burning Skies by Battle Beast, and Vespertine by Camelot.
Love it. Okay, so I'm gonna start my day tomorrow with that. See what happens.
Do Blind Guardian, not Blind Guardian, Battle Beast, Beyond Burning Skies. She's great. It's impossible to be sad listening to that woman sing.
Okay, and you mentioned you're a gamer, so what's your game? What's your favorite?
I have a bunch of games. So lately we've been doing a lot of Magic the Gathering. Also, obviously a ton of Witcher. Um, Kingdoms of Amalur I just picked up. It's pretty fun. I've been watching Dave, my husband, play Red Dead Redemption 2, which has been great. But I will actually say, in terms of games, we used to play a lot more. COVID kind of killed game night, which is tragic because I lived and breathed for that. So now that quarantining has kind of allowed certain merging of bubbles, getting together to play Magic, getting together to play a board game like Clink, it's really rejuvenating.
Yeah. Do you have the Quest 2? Do you have the VR headset? Do you play are those
No,
do you use that at all? No.
just sitting there and playing.
I just was at VidFest last week, and a lot of people that are a lot of topics on Twitch and gamers and Twitch and how Twitch is just, kind of exploding. Are you on Twitch?
I am not. I should be. It's one of those It's kind of like how it took forever for me to get on Instagram. I should have been on Instagram immediately. It took me getting a dog to really get invested on Instagram, and now it's like, oh, great, this is great. But no, I should get on Twitch.
All right, well, we'll meet. I'll let you know when I'm on, and you can come to my first live stream, and I'll come to yours. um, so you mentioned Search Engine Journal, the summit that's happening in January. So why don't you share that and any other events that are happening, or anything else that you any ebooks that you want to point us to or talk about?
Sure. So eSummit, I will be doing a live version of Ask the PPC. So if folks would like to submit their questions, I'll include a link to be included with the podcast. Always, you can submit a question for Ask the PPC. It's my monthly column on Search Engine Journal. In terms of other events coming up, I know PH Association's next conference is coming up. I think we landed on February, but I will confirm that. And then the PubCons, I'm putting in for the next, hopefully, Florida / next big virtual one. But yeah, the in terms of existing content, there are 2 courses on SEMrush, absolutely free. One is on competitive analysis and kind of understanding your market and using SEMrush to factor that in. The other is on PPC automation, which is an interesting topic nowadays. I'm finding that automation is more and more on the evil side than it used to be. I think the past couple of months, we've seen a lot of the innovations on the Google side kind of leading us to wasting money as opposed to it being allocated correctly. I only say it's waste because it coincides with the transparency going away on search terms. But both of those courses are definitely worth checking out.
If somebody is just starting out and just wants to do a basic, the basic like PPC course or Google AdWord course, where would you recommend them starting? I mean, I would think it's valuable for every marketing professional just to have the basic knowledge.
For sure. So I definitely actually would recommend checking out the SEMrush courses. They're pretty
Okay.
good. It is worthwhile to go through the Google Ads certifications, not necessarily to take it word for word verbatim that those are best practices, but it is actually helpful to understand the Google algorithm, what they're preaching that you should do to go through the certification and understand kind of what they see the right answer as. It also helps to be certified so that you're employable. It's kind
Exactly.
of like how college degrees are useless, but you need them to get employed. The certifications are effectively useless, but you need them to be taken seriously. So that's definitely a good road to toe. I definitely recommend checking out Joe and Michelle's Clicks Marketing, and then I feel terrible. I'm blanking on the name.
We'll put it
Of
in the show notes.
Yeah, but they have a good show. I would also check out PPC Hero. PPC Hero is great. Check out my alma mater, WordStream. They have some great content. Obviously, shameless self plug. The Ask the PPC column. I put a lot of beginner to intermediate content on there, so definitely check that out.
And that's on Search Engine Journal.
Search Engine Journal.
Yes. Okay. So we'll put a link to that as well. So Nava, thank you so much. It was so fun catching up, and hopefully I see you live at PubCon in Florida if it happens in person.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Fingers crossed. And
We need this.
yeah, and I mentioned PubCon a lot in my interviews, talking with different speakers and different guests. And I have to say that PubCon was one of my first conferences that I attended, and I think it's been like 15 years that I've been going now every year, and it's the only conference that I do not miss ever.
It's the
So
most valuable conference, and
yeah,
I work so hard to put together content for PubCon because I'm so afraid I will disappoint Brett and Joe and the PubCon audience. Like that is the conference I always bring my all. And you'll for those that are ever curious about PubCon, shameless plug for PubCon. That is where the experts will really reveal their expert tactics, because we know going in that they actually don't like those sessions being recorded. So that you tend to get insights you'll get nowhere else. It's an absolutely fantastic event.
yes, and even when it hopefully we'll be able to go to it live again when you're live, and even after the sessions, meet up at the bars, and you can just sit side by side with speakers and openly just even talk after the sessions are over. So it's not one of those conferences where the speakers are like at their sessions, and then after the sessions, after hours, there's the speakers that have certain events that they go to that's separate from the attendees. Like PubCon, everything is
It's
mixed.
very intermingled.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
made some of my best industry friends and just in general friends, yourself included,
Yes, yes.
at PubCon.
Yes, definitely. Well, Nava, thank you so much. We'll put all of these great sources in the show notes, and I hope I definitely will be attending your session at the summit in January, and we've been promoting it all this whole month, and I'll make sure to promote your session specifically.
Thank you.
Yay. Yes. So right now it's the holidays as we're recording this. So everybody, if you're listening to this, I hope you have a happy holiday, happy new year. And that, if you're listening to this in 2021, yay, we said goodbye to
We made
2020.
it. We
Yeah,
survived.
we survived. We survived. Okay, Nava, thank you so much. Namaste. Thank you for listening to this episode of Social PR Secrets. If you like what you heard, check out the book on Amazon or follow our blog at socialprsecrets.com. This episode was sponsored by The Buyer Group, a social PR agency striving to keep our balance in the digital world, practicing public relations, social media, and search marketing, while occasionally drinking a glass of wine or two for the best creativity and results. Thank you all for tuning in. If you would like to get a free chapter of Social PR Secrets, go to socialprsecrets.com/free.